Hi,
Hey,
guys.
hi.
How are you?
Very
Um,
good.
Natalie, Natalie is so perfect. She's one of these perfect people. Look at her. She's got a beautiful tree behind her. She's sitting perfectly placed with the candles. And look at me. I'm sort of just sitting down here in front of this camera. Honestly,
And I've got my coat on.
Debbie, darling,
Oh,
you're absolutely right. I'm
yeah,
completely perfect.
you're completely perfect. Exactly. And your
completely,
makeup
utterly
and
perfect.
everything. And
What
yes.
are you wearing, Nat?
What am I wearing? I'm actually wearing a blouse that my
I thought
daughter
it was
threw out.
pajamas.
No, they look like pajamas, don't they? It's not, my daughter every now and then throws out a load of clothes, and she's about 2 sizes smaller than me, and I squeeze myself into them and go, oh, look, that looks great. And then I realise that I'm too fat and they don't really fit me. But so I'm wearing one of my daughter's cast on.
Yes, we did think you were in your pajamas. We
No,
were
I'm not
slightly worried.
pajamas. It's my very
Oh,
best.
it's a lovely top.
It is lovely. So,
Pajama
what have we
top.
got coming in today?
We have got the most fantastic doctor,
Ooh.
Dr. Siva Kumar.
Ooh.
Please come in, Dr. Siva.
Hi.
Hello, Siva. It's so lovely to see you again.
Thank you very much. Good to be on your show.
Thank you for
You know,
coming.
the thing is, Shiva, all I do, I can see you've got a plant behind you. Natalie has a tree behind her. Me and Dee have nothing. Nothing.
Mirrors.
No, there is obviously people. You two have thought about how you look.
Yeah.
We just come in as we are.
We've thought about They've thought about Christmassy things. So, Siva, it's so lovely to see you, and we're going to be talking about something that's very important to all of us. Although it's the winter, we have to be now, well, even more aware of the fact that any exposure to the sun can create bad kind of results like skin cancer. Tell us about how that happens and what you've seen over the years.
Yeah, sure. So skin cancer is very much on the rise. It is worldwide, but certainly in the UK. So it's estimated that there's about 300,000 skin cancers that have been diagnosed in the past year alone, and that's expected to rise exponentially over the next 5 years as well. So it's an important topic because certainly our health economy, the NHS, and everyone that's actually dealing with skin cancers are really feeling it. You know, we've noticed a definite uptick in the number of people that are presenting. So I think it's a really important topic that needs to be addressed.
Well, why does it happen, Shiva? Well, why is it suddenly on the rise? I mean, I know people, if we go back to the last century, were always dressed. So obviously that was never an issue. They never went outside particularly, or if they did, they had hats on and gloves on. And so they never exposed themselves. Is it because we're exposing ourselves much more, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So about 80 to 90% of all skin cancers are actually related to sun exposure. And it's all to do with the UV rays that enter our atmosphere. And it's usually UVA and B that come along and they actually cause damage to our skin. So what these rays essentially do is as they get through the clouds, get through our atmosphere, and then they start to reach our skin. Our skin is a very protective organ, but unfortunately, some of these rays still manage to penetrate. And when they do so, if you get too much penetration of these UV rays, it can then go along and damage the DNA that's within some of the skin cells. When you get any type of DNA damage, some of these cells then can start to turn cancerous, and that's essentially what we're seeing now. Now, your question about, well, why is it that we're seeing more of this? I think there's two reasons for it. One is there's generally just a lot of sun exposure that we're being exposed to. So as children, we're out and about, playing a lot, not necessarily covering up or taking the precautions. And certainly many years ago, you hear of lots of stories where people thought it was very healthy to actually go out and get burnt, or you hear of babies that were essentially oiled up in some olive oil and then told to go along and actually just expose themselves on the beach. And thankfully, those days are far sort of going behind us, but the legacy of what happened then is now starting to come to fruition, where we're seeing a lot of people actually with skin cancers. And bear in mind that it's also about the length of exposure. So as we live longer, we're being exposed to more sun, and so we're actually seeing a lot more elderly people that are actually getting skin cancers as well.
Of course. And how do you overcome that? Are they very dangerous, Siva? Are they, are they sort of life-threatening, all of them?
Not necessarily all of them. Certainly there's the worrying ones. So melanoma is probably the most worrying of the skin cancers that we see. Just in the past year in the UK, we've had 17,000 people diagnosed with melanoma.
Wow.
And that can potentially go on to be quite life-limiting. But if caught early, it's very curative. And I think that's one of the key messages that I hope today I'll be able to get across.
I mean, I know that Dee and Natalie you were sun babies, weren't you? You were out in the sun all the time.
Yeah, we were.
Weren't you, Nat?
Definitely. I was in Malaya, as it was called then, Malaysia, as it is now, and completely burnt. I remember just peeling my skin off, when we'd been to Penang Beach and yeah, so they say, I don't know if it's true or not, you can tell me, if you have had a lot of exposure as a child, is it threatening later on? I mean, I do look out for every little new thing that appears, just in case. But is it true if you've had a lot of exposure as a child that it might affect you later?
Yeah, certainly. There have been studies that have shown that that's true. So we get pretty much 50% of all of our sun exposure as children. So before the age of 16, because we're outside a lot more, we're not stuck in offices, when we're adults, we get most of our sun exposure then. But below the age of 4, you've got much thinner skin. You haven't got as much melanin, which is one of the protective things that causes a bit of a tan to help protect us from the sun. And so sun exposure below the age of 4 and getting burnt is definitely an indication. But then other studies have shown that if you're somebody that's fair-skinned, you've had 5 pretty nasty sunburns by the time you're 18, you've got more than 50 moles, if you're red-haired, if you've got other genetic factors, then actually if you've had all those things, then yeah, certainly, unfortunately, you are at a high risk.
Wow. I mean, the thing is, and this is going to be quite a controversial question, do sunblocks really work?
Another really good question. There's a lot of myths, aren't there, surrounding sunscreen, sunblocks, and what works and what doesn't, and is it dangerous? But actually, if you look at the vast amount of evidence out there, then you know that it does actually work. You know that it's actually a really good preventative tool. And I think it's actually really important to address some of these myths. So some people say that it's actually quite dangerous, and actually that's not true. The chemicals that are within that, some of the nastier chemicals have actually now been banned, some of the benzones, and some of and actually there are, broadly speaking, 2 types of sunscreens. You can either get sunscreens that have chemicals within it, and they actually protect you from having a chemical reaction when the UV rays hit you. And some of those chemicals can get absorbed in your body, but it comes out in your wee. So it's sort of not really thought to be that dangerous. Or you can get more mineral-based sun creams, which don't get absorbed into your skin at all. They essentially just are a layer on top of your skin, and they literally just reflect the UV rays back.
Would you say those are better, the mineral ones?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily better, but you know what you're getting. You know that there's not going to be any absorption, and if you are somebody that's worried about it, then actually you can go along and use those mineral-based ones. Some people don't necessarily like them because occasionally it can leave a bit of a whitish sheen on your skin. But actually, you can put it underneath or on top of foundation or makeup. You can cover it up, and there are so many different varieties out there that I'm sure everyone will be able to find one that suits their skin type.
And the other thing that I've always, sorry girls, I've got so many questions here.
No, carry on.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is quite worrying is I mean, I know the sunbirds were lethal and everybody, was told off about them. But now what about the spray tans? I mean, I feel instinctively that people that have them all the time, and what they're doing is they're blocking up their pores and their skin. I mean, am I right in thinking that? Well,
I'll tell you what, I mean, I deal with so many skin cancers every year that actually I would much rather somebody has a spray tan and get a few block pores as opposed to some of the nastier skin cancers. So given the two, I'd rather people go for a spray tan.
So you don't think spray tans are harmful?
As far as I know, I don't think so. And certainly they're certainly less harmful than, as I say, a sunbed that would give you a tan as well.
But there are still sunbeds out there, and people are using them. I mean,
I know,
different
madness.
sorts.
Absolute madness, isn't it? And again, all sorts of myths surrounding sunbeds, which again, I think, it's really important that we address. So, some people think that they can go along and have a quick sunbed usage before they go off on holiday, because if they get a tan, they think that's going to protect them when they then go on holiday and stop them from getting burnt. But that's complete nonsense, because a tan is the equivalent of an SPF 5. So, we'd be talking about sunscreen as a SPF 30, 40 or 50 to really try and protect you. A 5 really does very little at all. And really, any type of tan or a burn is really just telling you that your skin's been damaged. So I think that's something that we've definitely got to debunk that myth. And I had one young lady who came to see me and said, "Look, I use sunbeds, but it's okay, because what I do is she cuts out these little stickies and sticks them on all her moles, and then she goes and gets in a sunbed." And I had to tell her that actually 30% of new melanomas come from existing moles, but 70% are completely brand new and come from your pre-existing skin. So she can put as many of these sticky dots on her as she likes, but it's not really necessarily going to prevent her from getting melanoma from those sunbeds. So yeah, sunbeds definitely no.
I know this is another strange. Sorry, Nat. I know this is another strange thing, but people in prison, do they suffer? I mean, for some reason, I've read something about that somewhere, that they're always very white. So do they also have skin cancers a lot? I mean,
I don't know about prison population, but something, if I can just turn that question into something slightly different, which I think is really important, which is actually we know that the sun is actually good for you to some extent. And that's because a lot of the vitamin D that we get is actually synthesized through our skin. So if you are in prison or incarcerated, or if you're somebody that spends a lot of time indoors, or actually people with darker skin, especially in the winter in the northern hemisphere, probably don't get enough vitamin D. And people sometimes think that actually they need to go and expose themselves to the sun to try and get that. But actually, what you need to realize is that you don't need much sunshine at all to produce the amount of vitamin D you need. So in the spring and summertime, you need about 10 to 15 minutes of your face and arms and legs being exposed to actually get your entire daily dosage that you need. So you don't actually need sort of hours on end to do that. And vitamin D is something that you can easily take in as a supplement, and we're all meant to, certainly in the winter time.
What is a recommended dose? Because all of them have like 1,000, 2,000, 4,000. I mean, what is actually, if you feel like you are lacking in vitamin D, I have no idea what the actual, what I'm looking for, because every one of them says something different.
Yeah, so assuming that you're not very, very depleted and you're just trying to top everything up, then 400 international units is plenty, and that's the recommended dose. So actually you can go along and speak to the pharmacist, and they'll be able to tell you exactly how the dosages work and recommend a product that's good for you. And the great thing is, actually, everyone sort of thinks it's a tablet or something that you can take. I mean, there are tablets out there, but actually, I've had a couple of patients that come back to me and show me some fairly novel ways of taking vitamin D. I had one lady who had almost like a peppermint spray that she managed to spray just under her tongue, and she used to keep that in her handbag. And every time she looked for her keys or something, she would go, "Oh, I need to take my vitamin D," and take it that way. So there's plenty of ways in which you can remember to take your supplements.
Yeah, you do that, don't you, Debbie? You spray.
Yeah, I sprayed vitamin D and vitamin B12 every morning. I used to suffer from prickly heat so badly I couldn't go outside in the sun. So all my friends were playing outside, and I'd be sitting there literally with absolutely burning hot chest that was so itchy. As a teenager, all of my friends were sunbathing, looking gorgeous. I was a little white person here. And in fact, what changed it, I was doing a television series in the 80s, and I had to have a session of sunbeds. It's the only one I've ever had. But that actually cured my prickly heat.
How interesting.
Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that weird though? But I mean, still don't go in the sun. But I had to for the series because I had to be outside all the time. But it's never come back like it was ever.
But there is something that's interesting about that, which is the other thing that we haven't really sort of talked about is, yes, sun can cause skin cancers, but actually it causes photoaging as well. So we know that a lot of sun exposure, especially when you're young and even when you get older, will actually give you more wrinkles and will start to give you a lot of blemishes. And so maybe all those years not spent in the sun has meant you're looking the way you do.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's why people say, "Oh, you've got no lines, you've got no marks, and no age spots," and I go, "That's because I didn't sunbathe." You see.
There you go.
That's obviously
and I was so jealous of all of you, and now you're all jealous of me.
And what about moles? I know you said something about mole mapping. What is that actually, Siva?
Yeah,
it's not something you do in the garden, is it?
No, this is really we're in a sort of new era actually with AI and technology and the way that we're moving forward. So already you can go along to a skin specialist, dermatologist, plastic surgeon like me with an interest in skin, and you can have your moles looked at and make sure that it's diagnosed as being completely harmless, or if something else is a bit more sinister, you can have it biopsied. And that normally involves somebody looking at the moles, and we use a special instrument known as a dermatoscope, which basically magnifies the mole, and you can have a look at it in a lot more detail. But what can happen is that you can get somebody with 50, 100, 150 moles, and moles develop and change. Skin is a very dynamic organ, and you can get all these different blemishes. So then somebody thought, well, let's take some photographs. So people used to take photographs and then used to then spend hours comparing these photographs with somebody that came along a year later. But it's all very time intensive, and there's an element of you can get it wrong sometimes. And so now we've got amazing machines which take incredible photographs of pretty much every millimeter of your skin from head to toe. And then you have these AI pieces of software that then monitor these moles. So one, it'll tell you if there's a mole or a blemish that is anything that's worrying, and it needs a skin specialist to come along and then have a closer look at it. But if you're then to take that a year down the line, you can actually pretty much have a ghost shadow that then prints on the one from the year before, and it tells you which moles are new, which moles have changed, and you can literally catalogue all these moles going forward. And what that means is you can keep a much closer eye on the worrying ones, so that anything that's changed, you can go, look, maybe we need to think about biopsying that. Anything that's new, you take a much closer look at. And so you're less likely to hopefully miss anything sinister, and hopefully you'll end up catching melanomas and other sort of serious skin lesions at a much earlier stage, and then you can cure it. You can cut it out, you can cure it, and get on with things. But the other really important thing, and it goes back to the health economy question that I was talking about, is there's a lot of people that have biopsies done, because if you're not sure, you can have somebody look at it and go, well, I'm not sure, maybe it's changed since last year, I can't really tell. Well, actually, if you can actually have a machine that shows whether it's actually categorically changed or not, you might actually prevent somebody from having unnecessary surgery. And we're talking about NHS waiting lists and other waiting lists, and maybe all these unnecessary biopsies can be reduced through the use of these kind of machines. And certainly I've just had one installed in my clinic, and it's been an absolute game changer. And I think everyone should treat it a bit like going to the dentist and have if you've got plenty of moles, and actually just get your moles checked once a year. You're right. I mean, everyone's different, aren't they? Some people do have a lot of moles, and I think it's really
important. How does the machine work? How do you stand in something and it goes around you, or?
Well, there's different types and ways of doing it. There are machines that do a full 360, but they take up quite a lot of space. But actually, the vast majority of machines, the one that I've got installed is one that actually is a platform with a very, very sophisticated camera, and it goes up to 120 times zoom, 48 megapixel camera. So it takes really detailed pictures, and then you get yourself into poses, which basically you have a diagram telling you what you need to do, and then they get catalogued, and then you repeat those exact poses. Yeah, similar to that. And you repeat those exact poses a year down the line, and you can tell the difference between the two.
Wonderful. So AI in that case is a good thing, because we've been having lots of discussions about AI and how, you know, creatively it's not good because it takes jobs away from people and stuff. But this is obviously a positive development for health.
I think so. I think AI in healthcare is going to revolutionize the way that we do lots of things, but certainly with something like this, I think it reduces the amount of work for somebody like me, because if somebody comes in with 50 moles, you can look at all 50 moles, or you can let the machine do it, and you can let the machine highlight the 3 or 4 that actually have changed or are worrying, and then you can concentrate on those 3 or 4. So you're actually just focusing. So you still have somebody, you still have a clinician at the end of it, but you're focusing in on the really important bits of work. And I think that's why AI will really come into play with medicine, because you're getting rid of all of the normal stuff, and then you're focusing in on the bits that you really need to. And I think that's why it's really exciting.
Brilliant. That sounds amazing. And Nat, you've got a big mole, haven't you?
But it's not, I don't know that it's a mole. It's a flat, sort of looks like a blemish, slightly. You had a look at it before. What did you call it?
I did. It's called a seborrheic keratosis, and it's a very normal. It's a seborrheic keratosis, very normal, very common, and unfortunately, we'll probably all get a few of those as we.
I think I've got one, but very strange, because it sort of always comes back in the same place. I mean, because I don't go in the sun really at all. I really try not to. What's so interesting about not going in the sun at all, though, is that I do get brown just walking around.
So I'm based in the southeast of England, so mainly around Kent, Surrey, and Sussex. So I've got my own clinic, the U Clinic, in Oxted in Surrey, and then my main practices are in East Grinstead, Sevenoaks, and Maidstone.
And I'm going to be visiting you next year in January.
In a matter of weeks, actually.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Oh, because I'm having a little
procedure. And
I'm very excited, and I can't think of anyone better than Dr. Siva to do this, because
it does help that he looks so nice to look at.
Yes, he's very handsome and also a lovely person. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
See you soon, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun. Thanks again for making time to do this.
Thank you. Thank you too. Bye. How adorable is he?
Gorgeous.
And wasn't that was very informative, very interesting, and it gives us food for thought, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you know,
I would
all of those years, Nat, that I was so upset, couldn't go outside. I mean, it was so bad. I used to literally go outside and go whoosh, and it was so sore and itchy. And the only thing that made it feel better was lying in cold white sheets, you know?
Yeah.
That would cool it down. Oh, bloody awful. It really was.
What were you going to say, Nat?
No, I was just saying, I said I had loads of moles. I don't have loads, but I've got some old familiar ones that have been there for quite a long time. I wouldn't mind having that done. Just have a jolly good. I've had it looked at. I've had things looked at before just to double check. But it would be a really interesting thing to do. I would quite like to do that.
And on that note, I think we should say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.